Want full control over particle emission in Houdini? In this video, I'll break down the pop source, explore different emission types, and explain how life expectancy works to create dynamic, realistic simulations step by step.
Let's select these. We have some parameters over here. One is object merge, second is simulation, and third is cache. So let's start with simulation first. So substeps I will talk about later. We have this start frame. And what is this start frame? So if I visualize this, can you see this blue line? So if I change this 10 and click over here, reset. Sometimes it doesn't reset simulation when we change the parameter. So we have to manually go over here and click. And second option is you can click over here as well. Just control and click. It will reset. So as you can see, this is start frame. Timescale and everything I will talk about later, and object merge as well. Yep, let's dive inside. So what we need over here? We need solver like brain. So let's search solver and we need pop. Let's start. So here we have three inputs. One is object, second is pre-solve, post-solve. So let's start with object. So here if I type object and pop, so we have pop object. Let me connect this. Yeah, now this is ready. So all we need is source. And for now, let's use pop location. And where do we connect? You can connect anywhere. So let's just use this last input. Yeah. So as you can see, it started emitting. And if I want to change emission shape or something, I don't have any option. So in most cases, you will be using custom shape for emission, right? So you won't use this. So it's better to use this pop source, where we have option to select custom geometry. And here we have already custom geometry. And let's see how we can use that. So by default, it won't read. We have to select this geometry source, which is first context, this input. Yep, it's working now. So in previous video we understood how particle moves, like position and all, but how it moves in real world as well, that we also need to understand. And here we have this particle, right? So first it can move on its own, right? So which is setting a velocity. In real world it doesn't happen, right? The object doesn't move on its own, right? So to move any object we need extra force. So first here also, to move on its own we have to use velocity. And in real world, second thing is atmosphere. So atmosphere can be anything, wind, or even if we have something on over here, if this moves, fall an object as well. In dynamics we have to depend on this. So we have ground and sphere, right? So if you want to move this in up direction, we won't have any extra push or something. We have to depend on velocity or force. You will be mostly be using velocity, forces, and gravity also come under force. So be clear with this thing. So if you want any custom, moment or something, you have to use velocity and custom forces like that. Cool. Now let's talk about this pop force. We have some parameters over here. So emission type is set to scatter onto surfaces, which you can see it's working, and currently it's not moving, right? So just moment, I'll add pop force. So it's without movement, it will be difficult to explain things. Yep, I will talk about pop force later, but now focus on this thing. Yep, so it's moving and it has some stepping as well, which we will learn how to fix. Okay, so emission type. So first we have all points. And what are these all point? Yep, so it will emit from here, and I think I want to change through grid. Yep, now we have more space and easy to understand, right? So as you can see, it will emit from here. And second input is geometry, so it can emit geometry as well, but we will focus on particles for now. And next we have points. So what is the difference between points and all points? Why it's there? So all points meaning, if I go to next step, birth, if you keep this all points, everything is disabled. But if you use points, we have some parameters enabled over here. Yep. So that's thing. And second is scatter onto points. So it will scatter points on the surface. As you can see, it's random position. But if you want equally distributed, so you can turn this on as well. So you can see it's equally distributed. And we have some source group and all. What is source group is, if you want to select any specific area over here, and you can create a group of that. So I want to select this area and I will just create group. Yep, it's a primitive group, right? So it will work that. So here we have to select primitive and source is group, right? And similar way we have this emission attribute also. It works similarly. We just need to add attribute over here. So let's just example take this, and by default everything is white only, so I have to make sure I have default black value, right? And here it will carry forward that color as well, but I need to use, and it will make sure it will emit from white only. So those are the things. Let's delete this. Next we have scale point per area. To understand this option we have to move to next tab, and let me just quickly check that. So here these four parameters are responsible for particles count, and let's start with impulse activation. So this activation means 0 it's off, 1 means on. If you increase 10 also it won't make any change, so it works from 0 to 1 only. And second we have impulse. So at the moment whatever we were seeing, it was using this. So if we make constant birth rate 0, it won't emit anything, but just for confirmation let's make this 0 as well. How it works, so let me type 100 and I want to know the count. To check count, let me middle click over here that I have this count. So we have 100 points, and if I go to next frame we have 200 points. So on each frame it will emit 100 points. And let me turn this off and let's enable this. So how this works, so this is constant birth rate, and let's just check first frame we have 5, and so we don't have 100 points, right? So how this works is based on second. So let's just check on 24 frames we have 101. So there is will be like minor difference, but it will give that 100 points. So we understood this impulse count is works on frame and this works on second. Now let's go back to this thing over here, what I was talking about this. At the moment we have this 100 particles over here, and if I reduce, let me press L to organize this, and let me reduce this over here, it will still emit 100. But if you want to depend on size of source, if it's bigger I want 100 points, if it's smaller I want half of that. To do that it will scale by this area. So now you can see it's change, and if I increase it will increase count accordingly. This is how it works. So it depends on area, right? So what happens sometimes, let me explain. So we have like two sources in this scene, right? And here it will emit 100 points and 100 points, right? But in this area it doesn't make having 100 points, right? Here it will fill that gap, but it will overscatter over here. To control that, if source is smaller I want lesser points in this area, so you can just use this parameter. Let's close, I don't want to use this, and let's reset here as well, 5 by 5. I want to reset everything. And here we have this max control, and next is JustBorn. So it creates this JustBorn group. Let me just use bond, and here also we can just mirror click and check that group. So here we have option, one shows point attributes and second shows point group as well. So now we have bond group, and on first frame we have this 200. So let me just check this 100 frames only, right? So if I reset this, we have this 100. Maybe on 10 frame we should have 1000 over here, right? Let's just check. Count is 1000, but just born is same 100. So how this works is, whatever emits over here, it will just add that into group. So wherever you want to use it, maybe on just one group you want to add some force, and after that it won't add any force. On first frame only it will add some force. And next is seed. And most important is life. How this works? So this also works based on second. If I type 1, so everything will be deleted on 24, and it's not visible over here, so I have to animate this thing. I will emit on first frame, and after that 0. And let's just increase count also. Yep. So on 24 or 25, it's just one frame offset only. If we have started from 0, it will accurately delete on this frame. Yep, it's working that way. So if you want any variation in between that, maybe by half. So at the moment 1 is this thing, right? If you type life variation 0.5, means it will use this range to delete that gradually. Sorry, it's 0.5, and it will delete everything at once. So that doesn't look cool. So if I check and see, started deleting, but it's not visible over here. Let me just mirror click. Can you see the count is reducing? Here we have 1000 points and it's reduced, and it will reduce gradually, and we don't have that, the range I have described. So that's how it works. And we have jitter birth time also. So here we have some option, point, negative. So this is useful when we have some velocity over here. Let me use point velocity to set some velocity over here and set. Yeah, so to just give some jitter over here, you can just use negative and positive value as well. And we have this thing, point velocity as well. So where you want to use this to fix that stepping, earlier we were getting some stepping. Now it will fix that. And just go to front. Now we have that, right? So let's just increase this even more. Can you see it fixing that? We can still see some, but if I disable this, we don't have. And if I keep this null, we have some positive, negative. So positive means it will use this in positive direction, negative means it will use backward. So both works. And here also I have to use negative and back, and it's point. Yep, cool. Let's just reset everything, and I want to keep null, and I will get some, that's fine. Cool. Next we have attributes, and again I will need that. So here we have inherit attributes, right? So if you have any extra attribute over here, maybe let's add color green. By default it will inherit that attribute, carry forward anything over here. So if I keep it 0, means it won't carry forward anything, but I want velocity, so I can just use that. And here I want to use everything but not color, so I can just use this, so it will bypass that. So now we don't have that color. Cool, that's this. So here also we have inherit velocity. This works as a scale, right? So you can just reduce this, and I have other options as well. I can add to inherit velocity, and I have set initial velocity as well. So here I will just keep whatever I have set over here, and I can add my extra velocity as well. So I can just type 5 over here, it will move in this direction, right? And what is this variance over here? So for now, let me just keep everything 0 to explain these things. So variance is like this thing, so it will just go random direction. And where it's useful, it's very useful. Earlier we were getting some stepping issue, right? And there are lots of way to fix it. So variance, if I add 0.5 variance, and let's just reset, stay on this frame, let's reset. So as I have mentioned, it doesn't work, right? So this is not working, but if I go outside, it works. Somehow it doesn't reset, so you have to just go these frames to check. Yep, now you have noticed that it's 0. Again, after reset it won't work, I have to go these things. Yep, so if I any add, it will reset and it will just mix, because we have random variance, so it won't have equal distribution, right? This looks cool. Even it will fix this as well. So earlier we were getting lots of stepping issue over here, but now it's fixed because of this. See, if I don't use, we have stepping. Yeah, so let's keep this everything default. To set this to default, you can just control, middle click over here as well. Now I don't want to use any color. Yep, now we have one more parameter, add id, and id is very useful. Most important parameter in particles is id, so you cannot miss it. So let's just understand, and I want to emit on just first frame only. Yep, so we have this thing, and let me just kill this particle. I need some range. Yep. Let's reduce this. Yep. So I have some icons over here. So for now, let me turn on these display point numbers. And we have these point numbers. Let's keep 10 points only to understand. So as you can see, we have 0 to 9 over here. Let's just move. Can you see it's shifting, right? And why it's shifting? Because it's changing its point count. And id is something totally different. So id remembers this is point number 3. It's like a name, you know, if 10 people, they're known by their names, right? So if xyz or something. And to explain you this, I have to show you some quick example. So let me just use random, and I will talk about this p scale and everything later, but for now just for example. Right, so as you can see, now we have this count, and oops, what do you think how it will look when we render this? This is not right? And how do we fix? We need id, so let's create id. So I think we can just use point triangle, I at id equals pt. Will this fix it? If I turn this on id. No, it won't fix. So this is wrong way. Why I'm showing you this, it's misunderstanding that if you don't have id you can just create id and it will work. No, it won't work. We have to go through this dynamics to create id. So don't try to recreate id using point number. Now if I disable this, it will work perfectly fine. Can you see? So just be clear, whatever we get from here, if you delete id from here and if you try to recreate after that, it won't work. So you have to preserve its original id. So we have to rely on it when we have count changing, right? But if you don't have count changing, then you don't have to worry about id. You can use point number in that case. See, it's working fine. So when there is a count change, we have to heavily rely on id. So you will always search for ids. Ids are not working, then you have to resimulate everything. You need to check where you have deleted id and like that. So hope you understood the importance of id. You don't need to recreate it. The DOP network will create it for you. Next we have stream, pop source, and binding is set to geometry. It's fine. So stream is naming of this. So if you use xyz, and after that if I mirror click over here, that I have that stream, so it creates the group of these as well. That's useful. Awesome. Next I will talk about this too.